Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to another exciting live with TCS Vibes. Today, we're going to talk about cybersecurity. Now, before we call on our guest, take a note of some of the statistics that I'm going to just tell you. So, in 2020, in India alone, the cybersecurity attack rate has increased by 37%, and the global number is not far behind. I'm sure most of you already read about the Twitter hack, which involved high profile US personalities like Bill Gates, Barack Obama, even Elon Musk. At the start of the lockdown, when we all rejoiced and joined onto the Zoom bandwagon to help us connect, to help us work from home, soon we got very suspicious of this app when our credentials were up for sale. More than 500,000 credentials were up for sale. And the list is endless of the number of cyber attacks that we've seen. Data also shows that over 16 billion records have been exposed this year. Now, while this is scary, it also presents an opportunity to build robust systems which can prevent cyber crimes more than fight it. So we're joined today by an iron lady, or should I say a cyber lady, Ms. Santa Subramani. She heads the she's the global head for cybersecurity practice with TCS. And I would just want to welcome her on the show for now. Hello, Santa.
Thank you, Tanvi. You caught me by surprise, so I couldn't hide my smile. Thank you for this kind introduction. Very nice to meet you all. Good afternoon. Hope you're all well and staying healthy.
So, Santa, to start off with, I know you, like I said in my introduction, you head the global solutions and sales for cybersecurity practice, and you are, you're a globetrotter. You must be traveling, meeting customers, having meetings, looking at deals, etc. But now that we're in the lockdown situation and you're operating out of home, so how's this been for you?
Well, it has been, thank you for that question. Initial days, it was, the whole situation was like that from a movie, movies that you pick and choose and see, all kinds of weird situations, which we never could imagine. So initially, days were all about coming to terms with the fact that, oh, this is happening. We better call upon all our innate strength and brains and innovation to deal with it. We were focused on making sure that our customers are not impacted while managing our personal lives, our upended ways of living, our ecosystem, the people that we relied on, all of that came together. So the initial days were all about coping with the situation and making the best of it. In doing so, we also understood that it is going to be a long haul. This is not going to go away anytime soon. So we had to reconcile and put together sustainable ways of functioning, be it from our business, be it in our personal lives, our children, the people who depend upon us, the people who depend upon us for their livelihood, the people who support us from the society. Everybody, every interaction had to be thought through in a manner that we understand that this is going to be a long haul. So having said that, we have learned a lot. We have understood that life does not stop. Business does not stop. We just change, we transform, and we innovate for the new normal and new ways of opportunities. So that is one. Second, obviously, from a lifestyle and the customer interaction and the travel perspective, which was specific to your question, what initially turned out to be, oh, okay, you cannot come and meet me here, let us talk on Teams, now has become the norm. Actually, it has worked out well. We have met with so many folks virtually, which in the normal circumstances, we would have gone into the trouble of booking a ticket, flying somewhere, wasting hours on transport, and then figuring out logistics to get them into a room. All that is gone. A virtual conference get organized in a week's time. CISO meetings get organized in 24 hours time because we save a lot of effort from logistics perspective, and the connect is good, if not better. So from a customer interaction, travel and proximity perspective, actually, we have fared and this has really worked out well. So that is the overall summary. But from a larger macroeconomic perspective, it has been hard. It has been hard for a lot of people that we care about. A lot of businesses that we care about do not find a way forward. So we have learned to be more empathetic, more giving, and more understanding of the fact is that things can never be taken for granted. So that is in summary, yeah.
Absolutely, rightly said, things can never be taken for granted. Yeah, to start off our conversation, to bring it to the core of the topic, which is cybersecurity. So now I'm sure there are, cybersecurity is a vast arena. So there must be a lot of different areas or sub-functions within cybersecurity. And for our audience, most of them who are students, can you briefly talk about what are these sub-functions or sub-areas within cybersecurity?
Yeah. So most of the information that people get are from what we read in the press, right? So the general perception of cybersecurity is that any enterprise is a custodian of data, it gets stolen and it is up for sale. That is one way of perceiving why cybersecurity is required. Second way of cybersecurity perception has been that, oh, somebody stole my credentials and then I am going to be personally impacted because I am exposed to digital attack. That is a second. Third, there are aspects where it is all about personal information and protection. So if you look at it from an enterprise, okay, if for an individual, what digital protection means, protection of credential, protection of personal data, and financial, digital financial accesses and information. But for an enterprise, a digital protection has many, many dimensions. There is a lot of infrastructure, there is servers, there are laptops, there are applications that cater to enterprise functions whose protection needs to be guaranteed. There are state actors and criminal actors who are looking to attack the enterprise. There is a brand risk. There is a lot of nuances when this individual instance of a cybersecurity function gets extended to an enterprise. So when you view it from that angle, in cybersecurity, there are around 4 dimensions. One, there is a need to protect digital identity. So that is called identity and access management. Then comes the whole need to protect the hardware ecosystem, the hard estate that the enterprise owns, which are the servers, the proxies, the laptops, right? That whole protection function and continuously monitoring for any kind of a threat in terms of initiated attack to intrude into those systems, those functions form what is called cognitive threat management. You are protecting the enterprise from threats and it has to be machine learnable, cognitive and predicted, right? Third angle is that enterprises continue to build digital applications for their various business functions. These need to be continuously checked for any gaps in terms of compliance, in terms of ability to be exposed to attackers. So there is a need to continuously check for vulnerabilities. So this area is called enterprise vulnerability management. And the fourth area that we see is that the whole thing need to be governed, reported to various regulatory authorities. It has to be checked against standards. There are many policies that government imposes in terms of data privacy, ways of reporting evidences. So there is a need for a governance function that takes care of gathering these evidences as well as monitoring the risk and monitoring the compliance and all of that. That is called the GRC function, governance, risk and compliance function. Okay. The last and the final area is that there, whereas we are always talking about IT ecosystem, there is a big area in our industry which is not directly IT. They are all operating systems that work on plants, machinery, various equipment that we use. Most of the equipment that generally comes out nowadays are all smart. Be it a car, be it a plant control system, be it electrical control systems, all of these smart equipment which become part of our national infrastructure also need to be protected. That is called industrial control system and OT security. In broad terms, these are all the 4-5 areas that encompass an enterprise cybersecurity framework. There are many nuances underneath it, but this would define the broad areas.
Thank you, Santa. I think you briefly described that for our audience, and for somebody like me, who I only knew about the first two that you spoke about, that your identity theft, and the hardware protection. But then, of course, there's a large, or many aspects to it than what seems to the eye. Now, moving on, especially now with the lockdown and the pandemic situation. Cybersecurity has gained a lot of importance, especially because the adoption for digital has increased. We're all doing everything virtually these days, right from whether it's our meetings or recruitment, onboarding, whatever be the case. Where the use of technology is really taken up a lot of the tasks that we do, which we did otherwise. So, what do you have to say about this from an industry point of view?
Yeah. So let me rephrase. As I understand, we are adopting new ways of working, and the pandemic has forced a different kind of a lifestyle on top of us, and how we are dealing with it from a cybersecurity perspective. I think that is what you are asking, right? So see, what are we used to from a norm? We go to work, we connect to a system, and then we do a bunch of things, and we come home. That is always the enterprise workers are collected in a single real estate or a building, and they're expected to work there, and they are physically secured and digitally secured. Okay, this is true for everything that has got a digital output. Okay, so here what has happened because of pandemic, the securing the physical enterprise is gone. Nobody is going to sit in a building, they're all going home. So that one layer of physical security no longer exists. Then the second layer of security is that we are all connecting to a single LAN, and that has got its enterprise protection built in. That is no longer applicable. We are going home and connecting from some Wi-Fi. Third, we are using the enterprise provided infrastructure, desktops or laptops, which have its own protection done. No longer the case, we are allowed to use our personal devices. So many taken for granted aspects no longer exist, and enterprises have had to reinvent their whole idea of what it means to be physically secure, what it means for data privacy to be implemented when you're working from home, what it means to protect your devices. All of these had to be thought through in a different manner in a double quick time. We had a window of 2 weeks in March to figure it out and make it sustainable, right? So that is what has happened from a digital enterprises whose primary businesses are dependent on all of these on digital enterprise systems. But when it comes to physical businesses like buying clothing or buying food or grocery, there is only so much of digital ecosystem transformation and help. You still have to have physical proximity. There are different kind of innovations have come that has impacted supply chain, that has impacted the way we deal with various things. So that is a different kind of transformation. It has got its own security challenges that are getting addressed.
Okay, thank you. You again, just to add on to what we discussed now, that the challenges are now different from what they were earlier. We're no longer going to offices, and that bit of security has come about. So in fact, I just noticed one of the students had asked a question where they were where his question is basically on how do I ensure as an individual that that my data is protected. Now, besides having, because we're using multiple apps, we're using not just on our phones but on our laptops or our desktops. So if I am looking at protecting my data, what are some of the what are some of the precautions that I should be taking?
Yeah. So protect always comes with the knowledge of what you're protecting yourself from. It's important to know, right? When anybody builds a defense mechanism, you should know what you're defending against. So in order to really take good care of your personal digital protection, we should know what are the different ways attacks can come from. So there are two, three things, right? One is a trust-based attack, one is a willful attack, right? Trust-based attacks plays on your emotions. There is a very nice email that comes to you with a link saying, oh, do you want to check your personality or something very interesting that all of us are curious about? Or do you want to know, basis your whatever, where is your career going to be? When it comes about inciting personal curiosity, we are always prone to clicking that link. So this trust-based attacks come in the form of phishing, attacks in the form of cookies getting accepted. In your favorite apps, there will be advertisements that you are asked to click on with certain benefits. So anything that you don't need and you don't want to know, you don't trust the source, don't click. That is the first thing, because exploiting trust, because man is a social behavior and that is clearly understood by criminals. Exploiting trust is a big part of how cyber attacks happen, and absolutely we should guard against it. Second, social media. Most of the generation here have a Instagram, Facebook. Facebook, I think, is only old people use. Primarily Instagram, okay, and TikTok is no longer there. Okay, at least 4 social media, Twitter, right? The amount of information we voluntarily give in those areas is appalling. In Facebook, people register with their own date of birth, with their own email ID, where they work, which college they went to. With a proper algorithm, anybody can figure out anything about a digital profile. Very carefully figure out what you reveal in social media, especially when you create a profile. Obviously, you need people to recognize you, but not necessarily know everything about you, right? Managing social media passwords. Password is not a good thing. Passphrase is impossible to crack, very difficult. Why would you have a date of birth and your name and your mother's name when you can actually say something like old is gold or something like that? Nobody can guess which proverb you used for your password. There is no limit to password. We think it is 8 characters. You can put up to 56 characters, right? So aspects like that, you have to be a little bit suspicious about all these things. Even though from a peer pressure perspective, it is difficult, absolutely okay to be suspicious and not get exploited through trust. Then there is a willful attack where there is a concerted attempt to actually attack your profile. This comes through banking transactions. Especially, we have to be careful where we use our credit cards, ATM cards. Many apps save the credit card and ATM card credentials. Many apps save credentials. We have to be careful. Minimize the number of apps that we use and delete, or create a credential that does not correlate to your personal information, or don't allow it to save the credit card. Use some other payment gateway or something. There are various ways to get about it. So these are the 2 big things that will help one protect against digital cyber threat in a personal life perspective. Okay, there are many other steps. I think if this is done, I think 50–60% we are okay.
Absolutely. I think those were some really great tips. I'm just going to quickly summarize them. So one is that any attack will definitely play on your emotions. So always be on guard. Be suspicious. Don't fall prey to a lot of the emails, a lot of the offers that come to you. Be careful with what data you share, especially on social platforms. Minimize the app usage as much as you can, so you're only restricting yourself to some very important apps which add value to you and not otherwise. And of course, use of pass phrases compared to passwords, which can make your overall logging into your system much stronger than what it is. So Sandhya, moving further in our conversation, now we've spoken about, what are the different subdomains within cybersecurity. We've also spoken about how things have changed with the pandemic. Now talking about the future, where do you see this industry heading?
Where do you think? Yeah, so we want even our food to be digital, right? Digitally eat stuff. So see, as the world moves more and more into a software-defined economy, this is going to be a national security importance. Okay, already it is. Okay, just like government views protecting their dams as if you look at traditionally, Most of our industrial installations are protected by a force called CISF. You all are aware of it, Industrial Security Force. Why? Because every government viewed these installations as importance for national economy and national infrastructure. Same goes for the cyber footprint. Okay, it is going to be viewed as something that defines a nation state's defensibility, and every enterprise is a sub ecosystem in that angle. So this is going to be policy governed of enormous importance, and by default one has to be compliant. Okay, so this is going to become, and already on its path to becoming, one of the biggest aspects of our industrial prowess, economic growth and jobs. This is going to be an area of future for sure.
Absolutely, extremely futuristic, and as with time, the more adoption, like you mentioned earlier, that soon we would want our food to be fed to us digitally. So extremely important industry, and extremely important, especially from a future point of view. Which brings me to my next question. As you know, our audience is filled with students, and I'm sure they would want to learn and they would want to understand what kind of opportunities from a career point of view are there in the space of cybersecurity.
So answer has been given in multiple places. This is cool. This is cool stuff. Being a cybersecurity professional, let me tell you. Okay. So second, enormous learning, and this is not going to go away. It's only going to become more complex, more evolved, and more ubiquitous. It will be part of everyday life of every enterprise. So there is no need to even think about a future. It is just, are we scaling enough? Are there enough people to even think about where we need to be and what from an industry need perspective? No. I believe we are at least 60% short on the number of professionals we need in this area. Okay, so from a career perspective, world is at your feet. All an individual has to do is to learn, show the willingness to learn. One is not expected to know anything, but if one has the aptitude to learn, there's nothing like it. So it's absolutely the it area to be in.
So I hope all the boys and girls who've joined us today have heard that. She said it herself. It's the cool field to be in, and the talent gap is pretty huge. So which means the opportunity is enormous. And as we heard her say earlier, that this is the future. This space definitely has a very strong future.
Yeah. So I also want to add something here. Okay. Sure. We must correlate cybersecurity work with what we do in terms of being part of armed forces. It is that important. The responsibility that comes with it, the responsibility that we take on when we tell a customer and enterprise that, you know what, I am protecting your enterprise for you. It's not easy. It's not easy for a customer to entrust a person with that responsibility. It is not easy for a person to do that take on that responsibility and execute it with absolute correctness and completeness. So it's a highly respected, responsible area. Okay, so it's a cool area, but let us absolutely not, neglect the fact that it's a very, very important function, viewed with absolute seriousness with people who are working with us and the service and the enterprises for whom we provide these services. Okay, definitely. That is very important to note.
Yes, definitely. You rightly said it. It's like working with the armed forces. So where the responsibility that you have is enormous. You are eventually responsible for somebody else's data, for somebody else's life, for somebody else's a whole lot of things. So like she said, it's extremely, while it may be very cool, it is also very highly responsible job or a role that you take up when you become a cybersecurity professional. So, Santa, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Now, like I said, we have an audience of about over 250 students who joined us, and a lot of them have posted questions in the chat box. So, I'm going to take up a few and we'll go through them one by one. Okay, so the first question has been posted anonymously. The person's asking, for this field, which is cybersecurity, do I need to first study about basic networking like CCNA, RNS?
Any studying you do would be of advantage, okay? But it is not a prerequisite. You can study later as well. But any preparation, reading, knowledge gained as a prep is absolutely of advantage. But I would not call it a prerequisite. Knowing and having an aptitude for mathematics, coding, algorithms is definitely a plus.
Okay, so great. So I hope you've heard that. So any area is good for you to pick up and to start with. We have a problem solving attitude, be strong at algorithms and you do just fine. Another question is, if someone wants to get into the defensive side of cybersecurity, what should she do? Are there any certifications required? If so, can you name a few of these certifications?
There are quite a few basic certifications that one can do, okay, but it is not required. See, when we talk about cyber defense, okay, if you look at it technically, there are a lot of security products that are installed in an enterprise, and it produces and watches over the network traffic, access traffic. And there is a lot of tools and readily available industry products that help us analyze those events and traffic, and we are able to predict and catch an attack and deal with it. That is essentially basic defense, and it is correlated with a lot of intelligence we get on existing vulnerabilities, viruses, and industry specific aspects and all of that. So understanding the analyst profile is important. Certifications typically deal with the compliance functions, overall security framework, CISP, CISSP, CICSA are all certifications. But they deal with the whole gamut of cybersecurity functions, the entire field. It gives you a bird's eye view of what all goes into overarching cybersecurity function. Defense alone at a starting point means this. So you may learn a lot, but when it comes to defense, it is ring fenced by a few aspects. So that is in a nutshell what it entails. Okay. But this area is becoming more and more machine learning and AI driven. There is a lot of correlation. And here again, more than the certifications, the idea of machine learning, idea of correlation, idea of understanding how to do analytics, those things are important. See, in simple terms, what is cybersecurity on a defense? You're constantly monitoring data coming in, going through accesses, and figuring out if it is a offense that is happening or is a normal business traffic. Simple terms. And then making sure that you are prepared enough to catch the offenses and detecting those which we didn't know about, but looking at the patterns of data, one has to apply oneself and say, oh, this looks to be a problem, and immediately act. Basically, this is what it is. And there are a lot of tools around it which help you do that because the data is enormous. Okay, so in effect, this is what it is. So to your point, certifications certainly help, but starting is to learn these minute low-level details as to how to do this technically. Okay.
Absolutely. So got it.
There are hacker certifications. There are other CIRT and all of those certifications, which helps one to prevent breaches, which helps one to manage incidents and all of that. Those things are available. It requires a lot of learning, but having a little bit of practical knowledge helps to clear those certifications. Yeah.
Got it. So more than certifications, your advice is that focus on learning, and then as in when you get some practical exposure, look at getting into certificates.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, the next question is from somebody who's he's from the field of electrical engineering. So he wants to understand if, especially given his background in electrical engineering, what kind of opportunities are there, or are there any opportunities at all in the cybersecurity field?
Okay, I'm an electrical engineer.
Okay, that answers his question. So your specialization is NOBA. That is what she's saying.
It doesn't matter. I'm an electrical engineer. I did my final year project on neural networks. So it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. So I think I'll connect back to her previous response where she said focus on learning, and that should cover you. Moving forward, the next question is by another student, and he says that I have average knowledge about penetration testing. What kind of opportunity is there for me in cybersecurity?
See, pen test is an important part of any cybersecurity function because any enterprise application and enterprise ecosystem is constantly being tested for potential breaches so that we can catch the gaps and then fix the controls and fix the security implementations appropriately. It is a continuous function every enterprise does. So in terms of opportunity, it's out there. Every enterprise is doing this regularly, monthly, bi-monthly, weekly. Okay, there's a lot of need for pen testing expertise. So, like I said, cybersecurity is a vastly expanding field. As the digital footprint of our businesses expand, need for cybersecurity keeps expanding. So,
okay. Moving forward, the next question is how do big companies like Tata protect their data from hackers or attackers?
So, I cannot say how.
It's a trick question.
Yeah. So all I can say is that every large enterprises are bound by regulatory needs to protect their customers' data. Okay, they are governed by various industry rules to ensure that it is done. And Tatas by themselves are very conscious of their brand. So all steps are being undertaken to ensure this is done holistically across the group as well as across individual enterprises. So that is the most open answer I can give you.
Okay, so the next question is again on social media. You partly covered this in your previous responses, but he's asking, on social media, how do I, secure myself from some of these soliciting emails or messages that pop up on my account? What kind of precautions can I take?
Okay, so all questions are addressed to me, or how?
Yes.
I feel like I'm on the spot. Okay. Okay. So here, just don't click them. No, why do we need to click them? Don't. If you don't know who's sending that, don't. It's okay. If you don't know about some deal, it's fine.
Okay. Great.
Do not click anything. See, currently the attack has become very, very sophisticated. Okay, and people are essentially trusting. See, I will talk to you about Anonymous Enterprise, where we did a week-long session on how to prevent getting enticed by phishing emails. Read the email, do this, do that. And then after all of that, we sent out a test email with a link. We made them go through some 5 hours of training, digital training, this, that, and all that, made them go through the pain. And then we sent them a test email where instead of the company name, we spelled the company name wrong and said, this is your digital profile, please click. 80% of them clicked on it. They didn't see the fact that the company name at the bottom was wrong, even on the font was right. So they had to go through the training again. So you have to be careful to read, check. There are many ways of fooling because our cognitive powers are sometimes of disadvantage. We see the same color, same font, we assume it's the same company. So don't click on anything because sophistication has become very high in cyber attacks. It's okay. No need to get an Airtel deal now. You can get it when you ask for it. Yeah.
That is true. Absolutely. I think you brought in a very important point there that, you need to be careful. Please look at the logo. Please look at the colors because they are so close to the actual ones that you will eventually fall for it. And it's nothing to do with being smart or not being smart. It's just about being vigilant. Because I'm saying this especially because I know that a lot of students face this. We get a lot of emails where students say that I received this email from Tata. I was asked to come and join today, and so there are a lot of fake offer letters which go around, fake interview letters which do the round, especially for TCS. So, a very important point Chachi brought about was to be vigilant. Please do check. Look at the signature, look at the logo. While they'll be as close to the original logo, there will be some difference in terms of quality, in terms of color. So, and make sure, look at the email ID that it's coming from. Ensure that, do a check that it's valid. I'm sure these tips will definitely help you to stay away from a lot of these phishing attacks that you see. We have one more question for Santa. And this is again from a student who's posted it anonymously. And he's asking, apart from the technical skills, the learning aptitude, what kind of mindset and mental preparedness is required from an attribute point of view to get into this field? I think he's taken from your earlier response where you said that while this is a cool job, it also comes with a lot of responsibility. So from that aspect is where the question is coming from.
Yeah, attention to detail is very important. Everything is a problem, very suspicious mind, and an attention to detail and taking everything as an indicator to be analyzed and looked into is very, very important. Nothing can be neglected. No data, no event, no indication can be ignored. So idea that it's opposite of it is actually Murphy's law. If it has to go wrong, it will go wrong. So let me prevent it. It has to be absolutely that mindset. Very, very zero trust mindset is required, and attention to detail. Nothing has to be ignored. That is most important. Thoroughness, analytical mind, and comprehensive understanding of what all can go into a specific defense problem or a specific cybersecurity solution that is required. So comprehensiveness is important. So these are the 2-3 things. And the ground capability required is obviously mathematics, analytics, ability to code, ability to learn, and also a need to respect the rules. See, compliance is not a joke. These are rules that have been, apart from defending against innovative criminals, there is a need to comply with government asks, and that is very, very serious business. So taking rules and regulations seriously, and every sub-act, sub-point, and every little thing in those rule sets seriously is very, very important as well. So it is a detail-oriented, compliant, technically complex area. And developing this aptitude requires time, and you can start anywhere, but it requires time, it requires work, and anybody can learn. It is not a genius thing. It comes with practice.
Absolutely. Rightly said, more than the technical aspect of it, there is a huge chunk of cybersecurity which is related to compliance and governance and reporting. This is something that she mentioned even earlier in the, while she spoke about the sub-functions within cybersecurity. So a very important thing to make note of. The next question is interesting, though I know you don't like being on the spot, but Ritesh is specifically asking if you can touch a little bit about your transition from being an electrical engineer to moving into the cybersecurity field.
I didn't just, yeah, okay. So I joined, that is a long journey. I was not recruited into cybersecurity. So I joined TCS way back 23 years ago. It's a campus recruit from electrical engineering. We went through the journey of software evolution that TCS as a company and India as a country went through, right? So we did all the Y2K work, then we went to the whole offshoring excitement, then we got to do all kinds of exciting stuff on ERP and all of that. So we went through the journey, and all it proves is that one can always learn. Okay. And had cybersecurity been a big thing at that time, probably we would have transitioned to cybersecurity then. Now it has become an area of enormous business importance. Some of us get handpicked, some of us ask for it, and we transition. So it all comes with an ability to adapt and learn. Okay, so that is how I will describe it, and also continuous learning. So that is how I would describe. Yeah.
Great. Lovely, Santa. It was a great chatting with you. So thank you so much for coming and joining us today, taking time out for this live chat. I'm sure the students have had a wonderful session. Many of them who've had questions around career, how to start, where to start, I think you've busted all of those for them. Any advice that you want to give our students before we say bye to them?
Thank you for this opportunity. All the questions were very interesting, and I hope this was useful. And I would be very grateful if it generated enormous interest and an enthusiasm to adopt this field. We need a lot more of you, and keep learning and stay safe. Have a very good day. Thank you all the organizers for this wonderful conversation. Stay safe as well. Have a very good day.
Thank you. Thank you once again. And thank you, audience, for joining us. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye. We'll see you soon with another interesting leader.